Good morning, children. Let us start with the continuation of where we stopped last time. We move on to the next topic, which is nothing but shifts in the demand curve. Now, we had studied the law of demand, which states that when the price of a commodity increases, the demand for the same falls down, and when the price of the same commodity falls down, the demand for it increases. That was the general law of demand which we had studied. Okay, so when we plot it across the demand curve, we get a downward sloping demand curve which is moving towards the right. Now, what do you mean by change in quantity demanded? It means the amount of goods which I am now demanding has either gone up or has gone down. Now, when we are drawing this on the graph, it is illustrated by moving from one point on the same demand curve to another point on the same demand curve. Now, when I say there is an increase in demand, definitely it is nothing but people have started demanding more, maybe at the same price or maybe at a different price. But most probably it is at the same price. Now, why is that happening? People are willing and able to buy more of a good at every price level. Initially, in the law of demand, we had said ceteris paribus, which means other things remaining constant. Now, when we talk about changes in demand, now look at the term changes in demand. It is different from changes in quantity demanded. Changes in quantity demanded is affected only and only by price, but changes in demand is affected by every other factor other than price. Let me repeat. Changes in demand is affected by every other factor other than price. We had studied the mnemonic device PIRITS, which was population, income, prices of related goods, advertising, expectations about the future prices, and the seasons. Now, when these factors keep changing, demand will change irrespective of the price. So if the price is same, demand will increase. If the price is even going higher, demand will still increase because these factors are coming into consideration now, which means that if the season has changed from winter to summer, in spite of you can say cotton clothes, even if the prices are high, I will still buy them because there has been a change in the season and that is the need of the hour. So the demand curve will now not move across the demand curve, but there will be a total shift of the demand curve from the main demand curve either to the right, which shows an increase in demand, or to the left of the original demand curve, which shows a decrease in demand. Okay, so if I am showing if this is my demand curve, this is my original price, and this is my original quantity demanded. Now, this is my original price. This is my original quantity demanded, and this is my downward sloping demand curve. Now, what I meant to say is if the price of the commodity increases to P1, the quantity demanded will fall down to Q1, where I am going to get a new point on the same demand curve. So if the original point was O, I am getting a new point which is showing O1. It is nothing but the quantity demanded has come down because the price has gone up, which means there is a shift from O to O1 on the same demand curve, which shows that there is a contraction in demand. Like you see, the quantity has reduced from Q to Q1, which means now there is a contraction in demand. And if the price falls down to P2, my quantity demanded increases to Q2. Now the Q2 is towards the right of the original quantity Q, and the curve shifting will have a new point now, which is O2. So we are moving downwards towards the right, which shows an increase in the quantity demanded, or another word for it, the economic term for it is called an extension in demand. So at lower prices, more quantity is demanded. It's called extension in demand. Now when we have to show increase and decrease in demand, now in increase in demand or decrease in demand, there is price is not the main determinant. It is the other factors, the Pirates factors, which is the main determinant. So if this is my original demand curve and demand has changed, so at the same price, this is the original price and this is the original quantity. Now price remaining same, what is happening? My quantity demanded increases. My quantity demanded increases. So if this is the original demand curve and this is the new demand curve, my demand curve has totally shifted to the right and it is in the form of a new demand curve, which means now in spite of the prices changing, increasing or at the same price, more quantity is demanded. Similarly, if I have to show a decrease in demand, if this is the original demand curve and this is the original pricing, this is the original quantity. Now maybe it could be of any other factor like advertising, or maybe the population change, or maybe because of you can say the current example of COVID, where a lot of population in the US are dying. So we had 50,000 nearly deaths in the US, because of which the population of the country has come down. Now even though the price factor remains the same, the demand would shift to the left of the original demand curve, which shows nothing but a decrease in demand. So your price is not the determinant, it is one of the factor amongst these Pirates which is the main determinant. Okay, so let us look. What do you mean by increase in demand? It refers to the change in demand at a given price. It means that in this case, price remains the same, but due to some other favorable changes amongst those Pirates factors, demand is increasing and the demand curve is now shifting towards the right of the original demand curve. What is a decrease in demand? Now it is nothing but demand comes down due to change in factors other than price of the commodity. So it is some other unfavorable changes in those determinants, the Pirates, which makes the demand curve move towards the left hand side of the original demand curve, which indicates a decrease in demand. Now why do you think the demand curve is shifting either towards the right or towards the left? We had already studied this. These are nothing but our Pirates factors. So population change, advertising, improving the advertising factor, persuading people to buy more. So even if the price is the same, demand may increase or may decrease depending upon the personal likes and dislikes of the consumers. Okay, let us move to the difference between an inferior good, that's nothing but your Jiffin goods, and which is the normal commodity which we would be buying. Now what happens in case of inferior goods? When the demand decreases, demand will decrease when your income is increased. What do we mean by this? Like we had seen in the Victorian era, when the price of bread was falling, people tried to move to a better option, that was meat. Now at that time, bread did not have a very close substitute. The only substitute it had was meat being very expensive, so the lower class people were forced to buy bread. Now if your income is increasing, what will happen to the demand of that inferior good, which was the Jiffin commodity? It will definitely decrease, and people will now try to shift from the inferior good to a better commodity. The savings which are coming in will now move on to the buying of or the purchase of a better commodity. And when your income decreases, the demand for an inferior good will definitely increase, because you will not have that much income to dispose and you will have to buy the lower quality goods. But as far as normal goods are concerned, which we use as household items or in our daily use. Demand will definitely increase when our income increases. So if we could buy, I had given an example of oranges. If we could buy a dozen of oranges with a particular amount of income, now when the income has gone up, we are able to afford more oranges. So we might move from a dozen of oranges to 2 dozens of oranges, and same stands true for vice versa. Okay, so how are these factors going to increase or decrease the demand? Demand will increase and decrease with changes in tastes and preferences. Now fads are something which just come and go into the market. Like if you remember, during maybe you all were too small, before the introduction of mobile phones, there was something which were called as pagers. Now pagers were something which helped in communication, and it was a gadget which was owned to get messages while you're mobile or while you're on the move. So you would dial the particular number, a computer operator would have taken your message and passed it on to the person who owns that pager. But pagers were there for a very limited amount of time into the market, as mobile phones had just got introduced into the market, as a result of which pagers were a fad, and people shifted their tastes and preferences from owning a pager to owning a mobile phone, and immediately the demand for pagers went down and the demand for mobile phones went up. Advertising also causes changes in consumer taste. So even if the prices are high, people will still demand maybe more because, like I'd given you an example of Happy Meal. So it's pester power, it's coaxing and persuasion by children, wherein if they want something, they actually want something. And advertising is the main reason because of which children's demands are changing nowadays. Next is prices of substitute goods. If the price of one good increases, for your example, if the price of Pepsi increases, the quantity demanded will definitely go down because the price has gone up. Now, because the demand has gone down, Coke stands a better chance of getting more customers because the price is unchanged. So the demand for the substitute will now increase. And if the price of the good decreases, what happens to the quantity demanded? Definitely it will increase. And at the same time, because the price has gone down, the substitute now stands expensive as compared to the main good. Now the demand for substitutes will fall down. So you can look through this. Prices of good increases, quantity demanded of that same good comes down, and demand for the substitute good increases. What happens to the price of complementary goods? In case of a car and a tire, or car and petrol, if the price of one good increases, if the price of the cars are going up, the quantity demanded will start falling down. Definitely cars have become expensive, so we would not be able to afford that much, as a result of which the demand is coming down. Now, at the same time, because no one is buying cars, definitely the demand for petrol will also decrease. So if the price of the car is increasing, the demand for petrol along with the car both are falling down. Okay, so in prices of complementary goods, if the price of the good increases, like say for example the price of cars increase, the quantity demanded for the same thing, that's cars, decreases, and the demand for complementary goods will also fall down. That means people will demand less of petrol. So if prices of cars have gone up, the quantity demanded for cars come down, and at the same time the demand for the complementary good, that is petrol, also decreases. Demand increases and decreases with changes in weather, as we have already seen. During summer, we want more of cotton clothes, and during winter, we need more of woolen clothes. So seasonal items season plays a very important role. So in spite of no changes in prices, people will still increase the demand. Increase in the number of buyers increases your demand. Decrease in the number of buyers decreases your demand. So if there has been a change or people moving from one brand or one product to another product, there is going to be a change in the number of customers for a particular brand, as a result of which the demand curve would also shift from left to right or from right to left. If you have expectations for future income, now suppose if I have a job and I'm going to get promotion and the salary is going to increase, what is going to happen? I am going to throw a party, a lavish party tonight for my job promotion. So before even if I have received my income, I have an expectation that my income is going to increase, because of which the demand has increased as of today. But now I know there is a lockdown situation which is going to be extended maybe till June or July. So I know the income which I was receiving is now going to fall down. So even if the prices are low today, my demand will decrease because of the future expectations of my fall in income. Same way, expectations about future prices. If I know tomorrow there is a sale, I won't spend much today, but I will save for the future. So if I am expecting that the prices are going to decrease in the future, my demand as of today will still be down, or it will decrease, because I know that I'm going to save and get more amount or more products in future during a sale event. Same thing is if I expect, in case of shares, if I expect the prices to increase in future, the demand will increase now, even though the prices are high now, but in future they are going to get even more higher. So the demand for shares, even at a higher price, would increase my demand. There are certain expectations from a customer about what the product will do for you. That's what kind of utility it is going to provide for you. If the product is good for you, it's going to give you maximum utility, demand will increase. If a product will be bad for you, the demand decreases. Now you know about now you would be knowing about the fads about people wanting to join gyms, having healthy diets, green tea, and every kind of thing which leads to weight losses. Now if you know that the product is good for you, the demand will increase. Say for example, green tea and burgers, chips, fries, pizzas. If the product is bad for you, demand is going to decrease. Okay, so we have come to the end of the chapter. Hope you have understood the various movements along the demand curve and the shifts of the demand curve to the left or to the right, and the basic differentiation between extension and contraction in demand and increase and decrease in demand. You can go through your textbook and try to write points of differentiation between the two of these. We'll continue with the next topic in the next video.